So you want to own Ollivanders, a narrow, shabby shop in Diagon Alley, one room deep, with a single peeling sign of the window claiming the business has been making fine wands since 382 before Christ. That is 2,400 years of continuous operation. Most people assume it is a charming little retail shop that sells wands to schoolchildren. It is not. On the numbers, the wand shop cannot possibly survive, and we can prove that in about 4 minutes. The wands are sold at a price that does not cover the building they are sold in. So the real question is not how Ollivanders makes money. It is what this shop is actually for, and the answer is why the most dangerous wizard alive came here in person.
First, look at the premises. Ollivanders is tiny. One narrow room, a single dusty window, a spindly chair for customers, and thousands upon thousands of long, thin boxes stacked from the floor to the ceiling in every direction. There is no second location, there is no franchise, no catalogue, no owl order service. There is one man behind the counter, Garrick Ollivander, and as far as anyone can tell, there has never been anyone else, no apprentice, no assistant, no shop boy. Understand what that means commercially. This is not a chain, it is not scalable, and it has made no attempt to become either in 24 centuries. Any normal business would call that a catastrophic failure to grow. Hold on to that, because it turns out to be deliberate.
Now the product. A wand is a slender length of wood with a single magical core sealed inside it, and Ollivander uses only 3 cores: unicorn hair, phoenix feather, dragon heartstring. That is the entire range. He considers every other maker's substitutes inferior and refuses to use them, which in retail terms means he has voluntarily eliminated the cheap end of his own market. He does not sell a budget line. He does not sell a student line. There is one tier of product, and it is the top one. And the wood, the length, the flexibility all vary, so no 2 wands are identical. Every single item in that shop is effectively bespoke, handmade, and one of a kind, sold from a stock he built himself, by hand, over a lifetime.
Here is where the ordinary retail instinct goes wrong. You assume a shop like this works on volume and repeat custom. Sell to every child, then sell them upgrades, accessories, polish, holsters, a second wand for dueling. None of that exists here. There is no upgrade. There are no accessories on the counter. And crucially, there is no repeat custom, because of the single most commercially destructive sentence in the whole wizarding world. The wand chooses the wizard. Not the customer, not the budget. The wand. Which means the transaction happens exactly once, the match is permanent, and the satisfied customer has no reason to ever walk back through that door again. You have built a shop whose greatest selling point is that nobody needs to return.
So let us size the market, and this is where it gets bleak. A wand costs 7 galleons. By the exchange rate the author herself gave, a galleon is worth roughly £5. So a wand, the single most important object a wizard will ever own, the thing that defines his entire adult life, retails for about £35. That is less than a decent pair of shoes. It is a fraction of what a handmade violin costs, or a bespoke suit, and those are the closest real-world equivalents to what this actually is, a one-off, handcrafted instrument matched to a single person. A master luthier charges thousands. Ollivander charges £35. Hold that number. It is about to become the whole problem.
Now, how many customers are there? The entire wizarding population of Britain is somewhere around 3,000 people. Not 3 million, 3,000. That is the total addressable market ever for a shop in London. And because wizards live a very long time, often well past 130, the number of new 11-year-olds coming through each year is small. Hogwarts takes roughly 40 new students a year, going by the numbers in the books themselves. 40 children, once a year, each buying one object, once, for £35. £1,400. That is the annual revenue of Ollivanders from its core business. Not £1,400 a week, a year.
Sit with that figure, because it is not a rounding error. It is the whole trading account. £1,400 a year would not cover the electricity in a normal shop, let alone the rent. A comparable retail unit in central London runs to £50,000, £60,000, £80,000 a year in rent alone. Ollivanders is short by a factor of 40 before a single other cost is counted. And you cannot fix this with better marketing, because there is no one left to market to. Every wizard in Britain already has a wand. You cannot fix it with a sale, because the price is already absurdly low. You cannot fix it by opening a second branch, because there is no second population. This is the rare business where the market is not merely small, it is finished.
Which raises the obvious question, why does he not simply charge more? He has every condition an economist could dream of: a product that is effectively compulsory, no domestic competitor, and a customer who cannot substitute anything else. A parent buying the object their child's entire future depends on is not price-sensitive. He could charge 10 times as much and still sell every wand. But he does not, and the reasons are structural. Price out the poorer families, and you create wizards who never get properly matched, and an unarmed or badly matched wizard is a danger to everybody. Charge like a luxury house, and the ministry starts regulating you within a year. The low price is not modesty, it is what keeps the monopoly unexamined.
Push it to the extreme, and it gets worse. Suppose tomorrow every single wizard in Britain lost their wand at once, and all 3,000 queued outside the door. At £35 a head, that is £105,000. The entire British market, cleared out completely in one impossible day, earns you roughly 1 year's rent on a good London shopfront. That is the ceiling, not the forecast, the ceiling. There is no version of this business, no pricing strategy, no expansion plan, in which selling wands to British wizards pays for a shop in Diagon Alley. Which leaves us with a genuinely strange conclusion. Ollivanders has traded for 2,400 years, running an arithmetic that has never once worked. So something else is going on.
So, where does the money actually comes from? Start with the part everyone forgets, which is that wands break. They snap under a falling tree. They splinter in a duel. They are confiscated, surrendered, lost, buried with their owners, or destroyed by the ministry when a wizard is convicted. And in a country that has now fought 2 wizarding wars in living memory, breakage is not a trickle, it is a wave. War is the single largest demand event this shop will ever see, because war destroys ones at industrial rates, and every survivor needs a replacement immediately. The uncomfortable truth sitting under this quaint little shop is that its best trading years are the years everybody else is dying. Then widen the map, because Britain is not the market, it is one market. Ollivander is regarded as the finest wandmaker alive, and that reputation crosses borders. There are rival makers abroad, Gregorovitch in Eastern Europe, and others scattered across the continent and beyond, each with their own school of craft, which means wand-making is a genuinely competitive international trade, and being the best in it has commercial value that has nothing to do with 40 schoolchildren in Diagon Alley. A foreign buyer who wants the finest instrument available comes to London,
and a man who has waited 50 years for the right wand does not haggle over 7 galleons. That is the pattern of every elite craft house in the real world. The local shop is the shopfront, the reputation is the business.
And then there is the customer nobody thinks about, which is the state. The Ministry of Magic maintains a department of law enforcement, trains auras, and holds a register of wands. Every wand confiscated has to be logged. Every wand snapped has to be recorded. Every aura needs equipment and replacements, and auras break wands more often than schoolchildren do. A government that regulates an object legally requires a supplier of that object, and in Britain there is precisely one. That is not a retail relationship, it is a state contract with a sole source monopolist, which is the single most profitable position in any economy. The 40 schoolchildren are not the business, they are the license that keeps the business plausible while the institutional work quietly pays for the building.
Now flip to the other side of the ledger, because the reason this survives is not really revenue at all. It is that Ollivanders has almost no costs. Start with materials. He does not buy his wood from a supplier at a market price. He selects and harvests it himself, from trees he has spent a lifetime learning. The cores are rarer, but a phoenix will yield a feather freely. Unicorn hair is given, not taken, and dragon heartstring, difficult as it is not bought on a wholesale market with a monthly invoice. In accounting terms, his cost of goods sold rounds down to almost nothing. What he actually spends is time, and time is the one input a 2,400-year-old family firm has never been short of.
Then the largest line item in any shop, which is property. And here the advantage is almost unfair. A business trading in the same premises since 382 before Christ does not have a landlord. It does not have a mortgage. It has no lease renewal, no rent review, no ground rent, and no bank with a charge over the building. That single fact deletes the cost that kills 90% of small retailers in the real world. And because he owns freehold property on the Wizarding World's most valuable commercial street, the building itself is very likely worth more than every wand he has ever sold combined. The shop is not an operation with a premises attached. It is a piece of prime real estate that happens to have a craftsman living inside it.
Then labour, which in most businesses is the second great expense. Ollivanders employs nobody. One man, no wages, no national insurance, no rota, no staff turnover, no training cost. He is proprietor, craftsman, salesman, archivist and stock controller at once, and he works, by every account, constantly, for decades, without ever seeming to consider hiring help. So put the three together. Materials near zero, rent zero, wages zero. A business with almost no costs does not need much revenue to survive indefinitely, and that is the trick. Ollivanders is not profitable in any sense a modern accountant would recognize. It is something older and stranger. It is a craft house that has simply been left alone long enough to stop needing to justify itself. There is one more asset on the balance sheet, and it is the stock. Those thousands of boxes are not clutter, they are inventory, and every one of them contains an object that took real skill and real time to make. In normal retail, unsold stock is a liability. It ages, it goes out of fashion, it has to be discounted and cleared. A wand does none of that. It does not spoil, it does not date, and a wand made a century ago is not worth a penny less than one made last week. Ollivander has effectively been converting his own labour into a non-perishable, appreciating asset for his entire working life. Most shopkeepers spend their careers fighting their inventory. He has spent his quietly accumulating it, one narrow box at a time.
So now the real answer. And it has been sitting in plain sight from the first scene. When a customer walks in, Ollivander does something no other shopkeeper in fiction does. He recites, from memory, the exact wand he sold that person's mother and her father, and the length, the wood, the core, and the year. Not from a ledger, from memory. Every single wand he has ever sold, matched to the person who carries it. Sit with what that actually is. It is not a charming character quirk. It is a complete, continuously maintained record of who in Britain is armed, with what, and how strong the match is. That is not a customer list. That is an intelligence archive, and it is the most valuable thing in the building.
Understand why that matters in this particular world. A wand is not a possession. It is a weapon and an identity at once. It leaves a traceable signature on every spell cast. Wands can be won, inherited, and change allegiance to a new master, and knowing which wand answers to whom is the difference between winning a duel and losing your life. There is exactly one person alive who holds that map for an entire country, and he sits in a narrow shop in Diagon Alley, charging £35 a wand. The ministry keeps a register of wands on paper. Ollivander keeps something far better. He knows not just what was bought, but why that particular wand chose that particular person, which is knowledge no clerk can write down.
And that is the asset that cannot be valued on any balance sheet, because it is not for sale and it has no market price. A rival could copy his craft. Given a century, someone might match his skill. Nobody can reconstruct 2,400 years of matching records held in one head. It is the wizarding equivalent of holding the only complete firearms register in a country, plus the ballistics history, plus the reasons behind every purchase. In ordinary times, that is merely fascinating. In wartime, it is decisive. Anyone planning to fight the whole of magical Britain would need exactly this, and there is precisely one place to get it. Not a vault, not an archive building, a shop, run by one elderly man with a bell over the door and no lock worth the name.
Which is why, when the war came, the most feared wizard of the age did not send anyone to rob Ollivanders. He took the shopkeeper. Garrick Ollivander was abducted and held prisoner, not for his stock, which sat untouched, and not for his gold, which was never the point, but for what he knew about wand law, about twin cores, about mastery and allegiance, and one wand in particular. That single decision proves the entire thesis better than any ledger could. When the most ruthless operator in that world assessed Ollivanders and asked what is actually valuable here, he did not take a single wand. He took the man. The inventory was worthless to him. The archive was worth a war.
Now look at what that did to the business, because this is where the model finally breaks. With the owner gone, the shop simply closed, not restructured, not run by a deputy, not kept trading by a manager, shut, dark, and empty, for the length of a war. Every wizarding child who turned 11 during those years could not buy a wand from the only proper maker in the country. And here is the part that should worry any owner. The revenue did not just pause, the whole institution paused, because there was nobody who could pick it up. A shop with no employees has no payroll. It also has nobody to open the door. The same lean structure that made it invulnerable to cost made it absolutely fatal to interruption. And that is the real liability, sitting quietly under 2,400 years of success. There is no successor. No apprentice was trained. No records were written down. No second craftsman was ever brought in, not even as insurance. Every piece of knowledge that makes this business what it is, the woods,
the matching, the archive, the 2 millennia of accumulated judgment lives in one aging head with no backup. The firm survived 24 centuries by being small, cheap, and unkillable. It can be ended by one bad winter. You are not buying a business with a risk attached. You are buying a single human being, and everything of value evaporates the moment he does.
So close the book. Annual revenue from the core trade, about £1,400. Total lifetime British market if you sold to every wizard alive, 105,000. Costs, effectively nil, because materials are harvested, wages are nothing, and the freehold was settled before Rome. Assets, a prime commercial building on the most valuable street in the wizarding world, thousands of handmade, non-perishable instruments, and an intelligence archive that a Dark Lord went to war to obtain. And underwriting all of it, one man, no successor, no records, no apprentice. That is the real shape of it. A business that earns almost nothing, cannot grow, cannot fail, and holds something no amount of gold can buy.
Convert it, and the contradiction is stark. The trading business, on a normal valuation of a few times earnings, is worth almost nothing. A shop turning £1,400 a year would not sell for the price of a car. The building is a different matter entirely, and prime commercial freehold on that street is comfortably worth millions. The stock, thousands of unique handmade instruments, priced the way the real world prices master-made objects, is worth many millions more. And the archive is priceless in the literal sense, because there is no second one to compare it against, and its owner would never sell. So Ollivanders is a failing shop sitting on a fortune, in which the least valuable thing in the building is the thing it actually sells.
So, should you buy Ollivanders? As a shop, absolutely not. The trade is finished, the market is saturated, the price is too low to fix, and there is nothing to grow into. As an asset, it is one of the best things you could own, and the reason is the point of all this. Ollivander did not build a business that makes money, he built one that cannot be replaced. And the thing worth taking away is that the two are not the same. A great many enterprises are profitable and forgettable. A very small number earn almost nothing and hold something the world cannot get anywhere else. Those are the ones that survive empires and wars and 24 centuries of everything changing around them, quietly, in a narrow shop, with the dust never quite settling.